Hello and welcome back to Sarah Gray Crochet. I'm Sarah and today we're going to be doing a tutorial on how to make one of these flower bows. So I started making these flower bows back in May, I believe, and I've made 3 so far. So I actually have one currently in my hair. I've got kind of a cherry blossom themed one, and then I also have a lilac themed one. And I thought it would be fun to go through a tutorial of how to make one from start to finish. I also recently released a pattern for this bow specifically on my Etsy shop if you're interested in more of a step-by-step written tutorial. However, I wanted to make a video tutorial component just because I think sometimes that's a little easier to follow. With that in mind, I want this bow specifically to be fall themed, since obviously we're getting ready for the fall. I've got my fun fall t-shirt on. We're getting in the mood, and we've got our fun Hocus Pocus coffee. We're ready to go. All right, so for this bow specifically, we're going to be using some slightly different yarn, but it's all kind of of the same vein. This one is the Light Sage yarn from Big Twist, which is the Joann's brand yarn. And then we also have the Red Heart Super Saver Stripes yarn in the color Fall. And then for the center of the flowers, we're going to be using some of the Joann's Big Twist mustard color, like living yarn. So that's kind of the 3 yarns we're using for this specific tutorial. However, the cool thing about this pattern is you can kind of use any yarn that you have enough of and kind of throw it together. You just kind of have to pick your colors and go with it, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. So let's jump in. In terms of materials for this tutorial, you'll need your yarn, obviously. In addition to that, we'll be using a 5mm crochet hook, or H, and then we also need an elastic hair tie, some scissors, a yarn needle, and stitch markers as needed. Okay, first step will be just to make a slip knot with your green yarn or whatever yarn you want to use for the base of your bow. And then we are going to chain 40. Now that you have your chain of 40, we're basically going to fold that in half, and then we're going to do a slip knot into the first chain to make it a round. This will be the base of the bow, and for the next 10 rounds we're going to be chaining 1 and then single crocheting all the way around, and it'll kind of be like front side, back side, but you'll see once we make our way up the rounds. But for the next row, you're going to chain 1 and then single crochet into every other stitch all the way around. And then I will just continue that all the way around. I'm just going to speed this next clip up. have your first round of 40 single crochet, we're going to do a slip stitch into the chain 1 that you did at the beginning. Okay, so now you have a full complete round, and the next 9 rounds are just going to be repeating the same thing until you get a total of 10 rounds, and that is going to be the base of your bow. So again, I'll speed up this next part, but just know it's going to be chain 1 and then 39 single crochet all the way around. Okay, now that we've completed those 10 rows, you can see the seam right here. We are going to cut a long tail using our scissors. I like to do maybe like 9 inches to a foot just to be pretty generous with it. And then we're going to pull our yarn through. And then this is going to be the bow base. So we can set this aside for now as we move on to the other components of the bow. Since we already have our green yarn out and ready to go, we'll go ahead and make the rest of the components that you use the green yarn for. So let's go ahead and make the bow center. And we'll go ahead and start with a slip knot. And then you will go ahead and just chain 10. Okay, once you have your chain of 10, we're going to go ahead and chain 1, skip the first chain, and then 9 single crochet all the way down the row. So chain 1, skip 1, and then we'll do the 9. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. Go right in there, and then single crochet all the way down. I still even have to count my stitches sometimes to make sure I'm not messing that up. So if that's also you, I can very much relate. And we're going to go ahead and repeat this process for 3 more rows, and it'll be the same thing. So chain 1 and then single crochet 9 all the way down the row, flip it, and then do the same thing until you reach a total of 5 rows counting your first chain. I'll go ahead and speed this next section up, but like I said, it'll just be 3 more rows of chain 1 and then 9 single crochet while you flip your work in between each row. Now that we've finished the bow centerpiece, we will go ahead and once again cut a long tail, pull that through, and then we can also set this piece aside with our other piece of the bow, and we will get started on the bow tails. Using my last bow as an example, I really like to do these curly cues for each of the bow tails, so I will go ahead and show you how to do that. With our green yarn, I'll go ahead and create a slip knot once again, and then you're going to go ahead and chain 30. Okay, now that you have a chain of 30, we'll go ahead and chain 1, skip that first chain, and then we'll go into this stitch and we're going to do a single crochet. And then we'll do a single crochet in the next 4. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in total for single crochet. Okay, now that we have those 6 single crochets, to create the swirl effect, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next 4 stitches. Getting ahead of myself over here. So that's 1 single crochet, and in the same stitch, we're going to do a 2nd single crochet. And then you'll do that same thing for the next 3 stitches after that. So 1, 2. All right, and then 2 more stitches like that. 1, 2. All right, and then 1 more stitch with 2 single crochets. You can already see it's starting to swirl a little bit. It's 1, 2. All right. So I am going to actually just repeat that for this next set of 10 stitches. So we're going to do 6 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Okay, so we're repeating the same 2 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. And then you're just going to repeat the same process for the last 10 stitches. And with that, here's the completed, or one of the completed tails. Similarly to the other components, we're going to go ahead and just trim a nice long tail in order to weave it in later. And I am going to go ahead and do the second tail off camera, but you'll want to just repeat this same process for tail number 2. Okay, now that we have both swirl tails created, we can go ahead and cut the yarn, pull that through, and now we can set our 2 tails aside. And we're actually all done with the green yarn. So now we're gonna move on to making the flowers. So for the flower center, we're actually gonna start with a magic ring. So just wrap around here, go underneath, pull through, and then chain. So now we've got that set. And then we're going to do 10 single crochet into the magic ring. There it is. And again, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So then we're just going to slip into this first stitch and do a slip knot. And that is actually it for the center of the flowers. We'll tighten this part up a little bit later, but for this, you'll want to leave a pretty long tail as well, just to be safe. Cut that, and then we're going to move on to the petals. For the petals, we're going to switch to our fall colored yarn, so I'm just going to slip this into where we left off with the yellow, and then for the first part of the petal, we're going to chain 4. Okay, and then we're going to do a triple or treble crochet into that same stitch. So 1, 2, and we're going to go into this stitch. And then I just kind of like to weave in the tail as I go, so I'll be doing that. Pull through, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I kind of just like to keep that as tight as I can as well. So that's the first part of the petal. And then we're going to do another triple crochet. So 1, 2, and we're going to go into the next stitch. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to actually slip stitch into this chain with the end of our chain 4. Pull that through. All right, and that is your first petal. We are going to be working 5 petals in total into the flowers. So for the next petal, we're actually going to slip stitch into the next stitch here. Okay, and then we're going to repeat the same process. So chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do another triple crochet into that same stitch. Through 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then another triple crochet. 1, 2. Go into the next stitch, and then same thing. 1, 2, 3. And then again, at the top of the chain here, we're just going to chain, or sorry, at the top of the crochet here, we're just going to chain 4, 4, and then we're going to slip that into this same stitch. All right, and then we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch in the magic ring. And then we'll repeat the process until we have all 5 petals. Once you have all 5 petals, go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch here. Oops. It's okay, easy fix. Okay, and then you're just going to, again, cut it, leave a longer tail. And then you can pull through. Okay, and that will be one of your 4 flowers. So go ahead and make 3 more flowers exactly like this, and I will do the same off screen. Once you've completed all 4 flowers, go ahead and tighten the magic rings as best you can in the center of them, and next we'll move on to the assembly process. Starting with the base of the bow and the hair tie, we're going to go ahead and make sure the hair tie is sturdy, and this process is literally just putting the hair tie in the center. Well, find the seam of your main bow part first, because this will kind of be, we're going to hide that in the back of the bow, and then we're literally just going to kind of sandwich the hair tie in this part. So now with our long end, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to go ahead and wrap that around multiple times. To start the process of sewing it all together, go ahead and take where your needle is, pass it through on the front side like that, and then we're going to fold over this and find kind of the center of that so you're happy with the placement of it, and then you're going to kind of go through all 4 of these layers with the hair tie inside. Okay, like that. You're going to pull it through. Okay, so now you can see it's starting to get sandwiched in there, and then we're going to flip it over and actually wrap it around on the front side. So that'll kind of keep the that'll start the process of it actually looking like a bow. And then you can also kind of finagle it a little bit to make sure you're happy with the placement of it. And then you're going to do another pass. And again, adjust it as you need, but should start to kind of make the shape of a bow, as you can see. And then with the rest of the tail, just kind of keep pulling that center piece together around the hair tie, going through all 4 layers. Once you finish wrapping this tail around, you should have something that looks similar to this. And you can go ahead and weave in this extra tail, and next we'll go ahead and attach the flowers to the bow tails. Okay, for each of the flowers, I went ahead and weaved in the ends for each of the magic ring strings for each of the flowers, and I also cut off the little tail end from when we initially started the second color of the flower. So now you should have like kind of 2 tails each for each flower. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our curly bow tail, and we're basically going to sandwich this part of it in between the 2 flowers. We're going to do that, and then make sure you have the right outside part facing the way you want it to, because this will be the part that's kind of visible, and then you kind of want to line up the 2 flowers just like that, and then we're actually going to sew the center of the flowers together and then sew all the way around the edges of the flowers. So as you can see, we're basically making a flower sandwich around the bow tail, and then we're just going to sew the two centers together to make sure they stay in place, and then we'll go ahead and go around and sew the edges of the flowers together using the tails that we have. And typically for this process, when it comes to weaving in the yellow ends, I kind of just move like through the center and then outward, just to make sure they're really good and secure. And then once I feel like comfortable with that, I will kind of weave this in as much as I can, and then move it into the center and then clip it. So you can get to that point here. Like I said, it's just a lot of like in and out. All right, so I think we'll do one more pass through up here and then pull this over out, and then I'm feeling good about that. I feel like that's pretty secure, so I'll go ahead and cut that. All right, and now we're gonna weave the petals together. For the flower edges, we'll just be kind of working our way around the edges with the rest of the yarn tails that you have. I kind of like to do the over and in for the flower petals. I just like the way it looks, but this is when it's good to kind of line up each of the petals so you can get them in a good spot. And then we're just weaving them together. So I'll go ahead and speed this part up. And for the stem itself of the bow tail, just go ahead and kind of work your yarn needle and sew those two edges together, and then kind of pin right in the center, and then similarly sew these two edges together on the other side. So again, it further seals in the bow tail or inside the flower. Okay, I'm reaching the end of this yarn string. So similarly to the yellow yarn, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just weave this into the center. And then you can see it's kind of popping out on that side. Pull it through. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and cut that. And then I just kind of like to use the needle to poke it back in case it's sticking out a little bit. Okay. And then I'm just going to use the other yarn tail I have to weave together this last petal. Okay, now that all the petals are sewn together, I'll go ahead and just similarly weave this end through the middle, and then trim it when it comes out to the other side. Okay. 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 And then now you have one completed tail. Zoom out a little bit so you can see it better. But that is one complete flower bow tail. And I'll go ahead and repeat the process for the second one. Okay, now that we have both of our bow tails ready to go, the next step is honestly just to weave in the bow tails, kind of tuck them into the back here behind the hair tie. So I'll start with this side, and again we're taking that tail that we had from when we made the bow tails, and I'm going to go ahead and say, or I'm going to go ahead and sew them in, kind of starting right here. So we kind of want them to nest like right behind where the hair tie is. So you can see it popped out over here on the other side. And then I'm just going to keep working that back in. So, okay. And we kind of want it to, again, just like rest right to the right side. If you flip over, you can kind of see it's like nestled. I should lay this down, but you can see it's nestled right there. So not super way out here, but kind of tucked right in there. Okay. And again, I'm just kind of working the yarn needle in and out just to weave in that part. All right, I'm gonna finish weaving this in and then we'll do the other side. Okay, I finished attaching this side of it, and as you can see, I already weaved in the ends. That's what it's looking like, and I'll go ahead and attach this bow tail right in there to this side of it. And with that, the bow tails are attached. And then here's kind of what it looks like from the front. And now we just have one more step to do. Yay! Okay, so for the last part of the bow, we are going to take that centerpiece and then wrap it tightly around the center of the bow, and then we'll flip it over and we'll actually sew one end of it to the other end of it. So this part requires a little bit of got to give it a little gumption to pull it all together, but it's worth it because I think it really tightens up the front nicely. So I'll go ahead and start the process of weaving that together. Just like to double check how it's looking at the front. Looking great. And then I just continue the process of weaving the two ends of the centerpiece together around everything else. And again, I like to get it pretty tight. And then once I complete this process, I'll just go ahead and weave in the extra ends. And with that, we have the completed bow. Okay, I've zoomed you in. It is much later in the day now, but we have finished the bow. Yay! So this is the completed project. I'm loving the fall colors for the flowers. And then to top it off, I'll go ahead and put a little outfit together for this. And here is the final look I put together with the bow in tow. Show the bow in the back. We see the little flowers hang down. And I paired it with my folklore cardigan, a pair of my overalls, and the Halloween shirt I had on in the beginning. But I think it is super cute. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching.